It was a moonlit night, the kind that casts an eerie glow through the thick trees. As I sat by my crackling campfire, enjoying the warmth, I caught a glimpse of something moving in the distance. My heart skipped a beat as I realized it was a person, running frantically through the woods. Curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to investigate. I followed the stranger cautiously, staying hidden behind the dense foliage. Suddenly, I noticed flashing lights flickering through the trees ahead. It was the police, in hot pursuit of the mysterious runner. With adrenaline pumping through my veins, I couldn't resist getting closer to see what was happening. I hid behind a tree, my heart pounding in my chest. The police were shouting commands, their voices echoing through the silent forest. The tension was palpable. As I watched, I realized the runner was no ordinary person. He was agile and cunning, maneuvering through the trees with a supernatural ease. It was like something out of a movie, except this was real life. The police officers, determined to catch their target, chased him relentlessly. They were so close, but in a blink of an eye, the runner disappeared into thin air. I couldn't believe my eyes. It was as if he had vanished into another dimension, leaving the officers dumbfounded and confused. I held my breath, frozen in disbelief. The forest fell silent, except for the sound of my own rapid breathing. The police officers searched frantically, their flashlights scanning the area, but the runner was nowhere to be found. It was as if he had become one with the darkness, swallowed by the very forest that concealed him. The police, baffled and exhausted, eventually gave up the search. They left the forest, their voices fading into the distance. I stayed hidden behind the tree, still in shock from what I had witnessed. It felt like a bad dream, but there I was, standing in the chilling reality of it all. I left the forest that night, my mind racing with unanswered questions. Who was that runner? How did he possess such supernatural abilities? And most importantly, where did he go? These questions haunted my thoughts, leaving me with a lingering sense of unease. Since that fateful night, I've become obsessed with finding answers. I've delved into countless books and online forums, searching for any clue that could shed light on this inexplicable encounter. But so far, I've found nothing concrete. It all began as a regular camping night. We gathered around the campfire, laughing and telling stories. The forest was eerily quiet, except for the occasional rustling of leaves. You know, the typical sounds you'd expect in the wilderness. But as the night wore on, things took a sinister turn. Out of nowhere, we heard the distant sound of sirens, growing louder and louder. It was like a police chase happening right in the middle of the woods. We exchanged confused glances, wondering how on earth the police could be pursuing someone in this remote area. But we didn't have much time to dwell on it, because that's when we saw him. Emerging from the thick foliage, a man came running towards us, his clothes torn and covered in dirt. Panic filled his eyes, and he pleaded for our help. He shouted that the police were after him, but before we could react, a swarm of officers burst through the trees, flashlights scanning the area. Fear gripped my heart as I realized the situation we were caught up in. The police ordered us to stay put while they pursued the man. We watched in terror as they vanished into the darkness, their shouts and footsteps echoing through the night. Left alone in the eerie silence, we huddled together, anxiety gnawing at our souls. Minutes stretched into an eternity, and our nerves were stretched to their limits. Suddenly, we heard the rustling of leaves again. But this time, it was different. It was closer, more deliberate. As we turned our heads, our blood ran cold. Out from the shadows stepped a figure, clad in black from head to toe. His face was hidden beneath a ski mask, and he held a gleaming knife in his hand. Panic paralyzed us, and we could only watch as he approached with malicious intent. Time seemed to slow down as our instincts kicked in. We scattered in all directions, desperate to escape the clutches of this unknown assailant. Darkness enveloped us as we sprinted through the dense forest, branches slashing at our faces and twigs snapping beneath our feet. The night turned into a blur of fear and adrenaline. We ran, gasping for breath, not knowing if we were being chased or if we were simply running deeper into the unknown. But somehow, we managed to find each other, panting and terrified, united in our fight for survival. Hours passed as we stumbled through the dark woods, exhaustion threatening to consume us. Just when hope was fading, we spotted a flickering light through the trees. It was the campfire, our beacon of salvation. We raced towards it, tears streaming down our faces, knowing that safety awaited us. As we burst into the campsite, our hearts pounding, we found the police officers waiting for us. They had captured the man they were chasing, the same man who had unleashed terror upon us. The relief flooded through us, mingled with the haunting memories of that dreadful night. To this day, I can still hear the echoes of that chase, feel the sharp sting of fear that consumed us. It's a night I'll never forget, a night that shattered the tranquility of the woods forever. So, my friends, be careful out there. I recently went camping with my family in a beautiful forest, and I thought I'd share an incredibly shocking and scary event that happened to us. Trust me, it's something straight out of a movie. Now, before we dive into it, let me warn you, this story doesn't involve any ghosts or haunted houses. It's all real and totally believable. So, let's get started. We were deep in the heart of the forest, surrounded by towering trees and the soothing sounds of nature. The sun was slowly setting, casting a golden glow over everything. It was peaceful and serene, just how you'd imagine a camping trip to be. Suddenly, as the last rays of daylight were fading away, my family and I noticed something strange. We heard sirens in the distance, growing louder by the second. We exchanged puzzled glances and wondered what was going on. Little did we know that we were about to experience the most heart-pounding and terrifying chase of our lives. Out of nowhere, we spotted a fleet of police cars zooming through the forest. It was like a scene from an action movie, with their flashing lights piercing through the darkness. We couldn't believe our eyes. Something big was happening, and we found ourselves in the middle of it all. Curiosity got the better of us, so we decided to investigate further. We cautiously followed the commotion, taking care not to get too close. As we walked deeper into the forest, the tension in the air became palpable. It was as if an invisible force was warning us to turn back, but we pressed on. Suddenly, we heard the sound of branches snapping under someone's weight. We froze, our hearts pounding in our chests. Slowly, we turned around, and that's when we saw him. A man running frantically through the woods, his face etched with fear. He looked terrified, as if his life depended on escaping whatever was chasing him. Without thinking, we decided to help him. We called out to him, urging him to come towards us. His eyes met ours, filled with desperation and gratitude. As he got closer, he gasped for breath and managed to utter a few words. He told us that he had witnessed something unimaginable, a kidnapping. He had seen a child being taken by a sinister-looking individual. The police were chasing the kidnapper, and he had stumbled upon our campsite while trying to escape. We were dumbfounded. Our peaceful camping trip had taken a dark turn. We knew we had to act fast. We led the man back to our camp, where we alerted the authorities. The police arrived shortly after, taking control of the situation and launching a massive search operation. The forest echoed with the sounds of police radios, dogs barking, and searchlights cutting through the thick foliage. The tension was so thick you could practically taste it. We couldn't help but feel a mix of fear and hope, fear for the child's safety, and hope that the kidnapper would be apprehended. Hours passed, and the search intensified. The police scoured every inch of the forest, leaving no stone unturned. It was a race against time, and we prayed for a miracle. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, we heard a distant shout of triumph. The police had found the child. We heaved a collective sigh of relief. The nightmare was over. The police thanked us for our help and reassured us that we were safe. They managed to capture the kidnapper, putting an end to his reign of terror. We couldn't help but feel grateful that we were in the right place at the right time to assist in this